Licensing Subcommittee. Welcome to today's License Subcommittee meeting. My name is Councillor Mercy Ume. I will be chairing this morning's meeting. The meeting is being broadcast live on Council's YouTube channel. If I lose connection, Councillor Florent Verde will take over from me. I would like to remind all participants a few housekeeping points. Please keep your microphone muted unless you are speaking. Please keep your camera turned on when you speak at the hearing. Please note that chat function has been disabled. If parties wish to add any additional information other than the allocated time to speak, they must use the raise hand function so that they are not missed. I would like to ask all members, keep your questions and comments brief to the point. I now move to item 1 on our agenda. Item 1, any apologies for absence? No apologies for absence has been received. Item 2, declaration of interests. Do members have any declaration of interest on any of 2 applications? Members? No. Okay. Item 3, Olympia Exhibition Center, Hammersmith Road, London, W14 8UX. I would like to ask every member participating to introduce yourself as I call on you. We should start with us. I'll call your first name. We have with us Matthew. Matthew.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Matthew Phipps from TLP Solicitors. I'm presenting the application on behalf of the applicant this morning.
Thank you. Dominic.
Hello, morning, Chair. Dominic Holmes, Development Director at U Capital.
Thank you. We have Louise.
Not this morning. She's not able to join us. Sorry, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. Andrew.
Hello, yes, hello, Chair. I'm Andrew Thompson. I'm the Development Director for Olympia.
Thank you. We have Eb.
Operations Director for Olympia. Sorry.
Okay. Is that Eb? Barry? Is he here?
Yeah, good morning, Chair. Abe Berry, Director of Hospitality for Olympia.
Thank you. We have Daniel.
Yes, good morning, Chair. I am the Development Director for Olympia.
Thank you. We have Jill.
Good morning. I am Jilly Camille. I'm the Venue Director for Olympia Events Business.
Okay. We have Adrian.
Morning, Chair. Adrian Overton, Licensing Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Lorna.
Morning, Chair. Lorna McKenna, Licensing Compliance Officer.
Thank you. We have Emmanuel.
Morning, Chair. Council Solicitor.
Thank you very much. Objecting. No objectors has confirmed their attendance, so we go into procedure. In addition to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda A, B, and C containing additional information were published on the 23rd of May and 28th of May 2024. Before we consider the application today, please, may I quickly explain the procedure the committee will follow. The hearing will consider 2 applications for various aspects of Olympic Exhibition Center as follows. Application request for gym. 1, 2 application requested for music arena. We will hear from the following for each application. The licensing officer will introduce the application, the objectors, and finally the applicant. Usually each party will address the committee for a maximum of 5 minutes. Following the presentation by all parties, the committee may ask questions of any other party or other than person present at the hearing. Except committee members, no party has the right to ask questions to any other party at any time during the hearing. Following the presentation and questioning, each party will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to sum up their cases or representation. Committee will then retire for deliberation separately for each application. Upon its return, I will announce the committee's decision. But I will suggest that this time we hear the 2 applications. Then we go into the deliberation, but we come out with separate decisions. So this process will be repeated twice for each of the 2 applications, but I'm going to repeat this one once, but we come out with the 2 deliberations with 2 separate presentation of our decision. So can we hear the first request for Jim? The presenting officer, can I ask the licensing officer, Lorna McCann, to introduce the application, please?
Thank you, Chair. On the 26th of February 2024, TLT solicitors submitted an application on behalf of Olympus Property Holdings Limited, the applicant, for a provisional statement for the area of the development known as the Gym, the Ground and Basement, Olympia Exhibition Centre, Hammersmith Road, London, W148UX. A provisional statement provides the applicant with a means of establishing whether a premises that is being or about to be constructed or altered for the provision of licensable activities would be granted a premises licence after the building works are complete. The applicant proposes to operate this part of the premises as a gym with ancillary facilities for users, and the applicant has applied for the following licensable activities: the exhibition of films indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 5:45 a.m. till 12:30 a.m. The playing of recorded music, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 5:45 a.m. till 12:30 a.m. And the provision of late night refreshment, indoors only, Monday to Sundays between the hours of 11 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. And the sale of alcohol on the premises only, Monday to Sundays between the hours of 11 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. The proposed opening hours for the premises is Monday to Sundays between the hours of 5:45 a.m. till 12:30 a.m. The applicant has proposed a number of additional steps within their operating schedule to promote the 4 licensing objectives if the application is granted today. During the consultation period, the licensing section received 12 representations from local residents objecting to the license application being granted. And I can confirm that in addition to the main agenda, a supplementary agenda items A, B and C, which contained additional information, were published on the 23rd and 28th of May 2024 and has been circulated to all interested parties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lorna. And then now objectors or supporters, no objector has been confirmed their attendance. So we go straight into applicants and we ask the applicant solicitor, Matthew, to have 5 minutes duration to argue your case. Matthew.
Thank you very much, Chair. You will have seen that there is a significant volume of papers which we respectfully submit discloses very significant consideration of the issues at hand. A number of the documents, as you will be aware, are common to a number of the applications, and the committee will have seen a number of the papers within the supplementary agenda before today. But there are also some specific submissions, and in respect of the gym, that's contained at page 54 of supplementary agenda A. And that document, I hope, helpfully sets out the hours, the activities, the conditions, and gives a little introduction to the application. A couple of points before I turn to the materials, please, just about the gym, that it may be helpful just to contextualise the application. The first point is that all of the licensable activities here are effectively ancillary to the primary purpose of the premises, which is as a gym. So the sale of alcohol has been requested effectively to allow for people to have a social drink after a gym session. It is not, if you will, a bar open to the public. Music has been applied for because that will accompany a number of the gym sessions, as you would expect, and perhaps an abundance of caution, it was felt better to include that within the application. And similarly, film, as a modest example, you will perhaps be familiar with the Peloton cycling exercise, and that incorporates an element of film, but other gym classes and sessions may do that moving forward. There is no representation from environmental health here at all, but you will also have seen both the ADMIT report talking about the construction of the various premises, and from the second overarching submission that we submitted, you will have seen the specific planning conditions around noise and escape. Perhaps the easier way to articulate the issue around noise is that these premises are under the Hyatt Hotel. So effectively, the premises sits underneath the Hyatt, and you will have seen within the papers some significant reference, paragraphs 48 and 49 of the original submission, about the obligations on tenants to operate satisfactorily, both in regard to residents, officers, but also one another. And in terms of the representations themselves, whilst we entirely accept the fact that the representations are apportioned betwixt and between all of the various applications that have come before you, I hope it is not an exaggeration to say that the representations do not seem to focus on this particular application. I don't think the word gym is used in any of the representations at all. That said, to take you quickly through the papers, in the agenda you will see the report at page 4. The hours are effectively in line with the policy for licensable activities, and that's set out at page 9, and with premises locally, that's set out at page 75, and with the premises at Westfield, which is page 47 of the supplementary agenda, and with the planning permission for the building. The conditions themselves are extensive, and I would say all the more so for a premises where the licensable activities are ancillary to the primary purpose of the operation. They follow extensive and significant pre-application consultation, both with the authority, Metropolitan Police, and then an all-parties meeting with the various officers. And the representations, a number of them talk to the request that appropriate measures and controls are in place so as to ensure the licensable activities don't unreasonably intrude into residential amenity, and you will see that the operating schedule, we say unashamedly, attends to every conceivable concern in regard to an operation of this sort. In the supplementary papers, there are a couple of overarching submissions. The first, a lengthy submission attending to a number of issues. The second, attending to some issues that were raised through the course of hearings a couple of weeks ago. I've touched on the obligations on tenants and operators. There is a public realm report that you will have seen touching on security, litter, CCTV, stewarding, waste, and as I've said on more than one occasion, it discloses, we suggest, a very responsible approach being undertaken by the developer as a whole. There's a transport report at the supplementary C. There's a residential engagement report that you will all be familiar with at page 39 of the supplementary, and the significance of that engagement, we say, helps fairly contextualise the 12 representations with which we are concerned today. Absent, of course, this application would have been granted under delegated authority. There's a commentary on the policy at page 49. We say, in summary, the policy fairly supports this application. It looks to support business and highlights very clearly the powers that are available to the authority and to the officers if premises are not managed correctly. There's some development of the planning, the specific planning points in the second submission, which may be helpful. In terms of the application as a whole, we entirely accept, and it's fair to say, that all applications bring an element of risk and concern to residents, officers, and licensing committees. But it is the likelihood of the risks and concerns materialising into a form that undermines the licensing objectives, or better expressed as likely undermines the licensing objectives. And in the context of a gym premises with ancillary facilities that are candidly pretty commonplace up and down the country, we would suggest that that's not to fairly characterise this application. And of course, we're very happy to answer any questions you may have, but we would be inviting you to grant this application as applied for.
Thank you, Matthew. Now, the committee, can I ask each committee member to ask questions of any party about the application and issues that has been raised at the hearing in relation to the 4 licensing objectives? One, the prevention of crime and disorder. 2, public safety. 3, the prevention of public nuisance. 4, the protection of children from harm. So can I ask members to ask questions? Oh, Councillor Shavade.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So just a quick question about the ground floor area of the gym, the entrance to it. Are there going to be any sound systems in this area? And we see that there's stairs going down to the gym area. And if there's music, as there isn't any gym downstairs, what is being made to prevent the noise from going up to the reception area and escaping into the street when the doors are open?
Yes, so just take that in stages, if I may, and I may just turn to Mr. Seller just in terms of the construction of the premises. But in terms of the reception area, not in the context of entertainment, it may be that there will be some modest-sized speakers that create an ambience, but nothing that would go to, if you will, to a gym session with higher energy music or anything of that sort, and nothing, candidly, that would effectively escape the fabric of the building, not least because of the points about the hotel and the proximity to the residents above. In the context of the attenuation between the basement part and it not escaping effectively up the staircase, you're essentially walking through doors.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, to call it an acoustic lobby would probably, to be fair, be a stretch, but you're effectively going down into the premises through doors, through into other parts of the premises, into the various gym suites. And so the music will be played at a level that doesn't allow for it to escape.
So just a follow-up question on this. There's an entrance door. I'm going to pull the plan so that I'm sure. So there's an entrance door in reception area, obviously, onto the street, and then as I go down the stairs, am I going through another set of doors? Or
let me yeah, it's a very small entrance lobby. It really just is a way to get downstairs effectively. And all the activities within the gym space, you walk into a reception. They have 3 studios. The operator we're talking to is a high quality operator that run instructor-led classes within those studios. Obviously, we have set them, we're about to sign a lease with them. We have set them very strict acoustic performance criteria because of the sensitive receptor above, primarily the Hyatt 5-star hotel, as well as obviously not wanting noise breakout onto the street. And so no music really above background level would be played in those areas. In the studios themselves, they would play louder music, but again, we have strict acoustic criteria, effectively like a box-in-box construction that would prevent the sound escaping from those studios.
So that's right, and that's supplemented, if I may say so, page 109 of the supplementary A agenda, which just sets out the planning controls, which I appreciate is a licensing application, but the planning control of significance here is Where amplified sound is incidental to the use, such as background music, the agreed noise limit is 10 decibels below the typical lowest daytime or nighttime ambient noise level. And where amplified sound is a primary component of the use, the agreed noise level is 5 decibels below. So the obligation both on the tenant, on the construction, and on us to deliver is already set out that it cannot intrude.
Okay, that's really helpful. I'm trying to understand, and I'm not opposing the opening hours. I think the gyms should have the amplitude to allow people to go to them when they think it is convenient to go. But I am thinking about this amount of noise, however, at 5:45 in the morning. What will be something, during the day that we wouldn't notice might be something noticeable this early. So maybe I might turn to the licensing team. And this is just to understand this potentiality of egress of sound, at 6 a.m. On a Tuesday. Is that conditioned? How does that work out?
So maybe I can help with that one, Councillor. I mean, it could potentially be conditioned. I mean, there could be a condition on the license to say that after a certain time there should be limited noise breakout. I mean, I would suggest that it's probably good for a noise officer to maybe have a look at that condition and maybe speak to the license holder or applicant about that condition. But I wouldn't want to give any sort of further advice on that. But I mean, you could have a condition that says, the license holder will try to limit noise breakout after a certain time. Obviously, if you say that there's no noise at all, that would be a very difficult condition to comply with and almost impossible to comply with. But you could have something along those lines just to be mindful of residents after a certain time, that type of thing.
No, indeed, and this isn't to impede the operation of the gym. I gave this building a planning permit too, so it's full circle. It's just to ensure its success and prevent noise complaints that Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. that people are saying doors are open on a hot day or these sorts of things. So I think going back to the applicant, how would you feel having something in there that sort of says speak to a noise officer, so you can look into that and how that can be agreed prior to opening?
So yes, well, a couple of points. One is, of course, there's no representation from environmental health who've been served with this application and with whom we have directly engaged, as we have with all the other officers. So respectfully, the officer and the Environmental Health Service are entirely content with the proposals. Second point is that, if I may say so, I think we're just conflating two issues. The volume at which the music is played within the gym class isn't of any concern, provided that it doesn't escape. And so it's the escape that is the point of concern, rather than the volume at which it is played. And we have already put into the application a condition that music cannot be played at such a level that it would be a public nuisance. That's on page 43, condition 17 within the application. And so if you overlay the planning obligation that we are essentially either 5 or 10 dB below ambient noise levels, and we have an express prohibition which effectively creates a criminal offence if breached, a prohibition on public nuisance, and we have no environmental health officer representation, and candidly we have no reference to gym within any of the other representations, I'd suggest that it's more than adequately covered as it is.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be minded to have a conversation with a noise officer to make sure?
So of course, we will be speaking to all of the officers within the authority all the time over the course of the next several years. There's no issue with that at all, but forgive me, if it's, are you happy to speak to the officers? Absolutely. Will we do tests? Will we make sure that we are compliant? Absolutely, all of that. Forgive me, I thought we were moving toward attaching a condition that there was an obligation in some way to do something more than that which is within the application. And sorry if I've got that wrong. If it's, are you happy to engage with the team? Absolutely, of course we are. It was the resistance was to additional conditions being attached to the license, and forgive me if I got that wrong.
That's okay. What I think we see fit on this committee sometimes is to ensure that the right amount of checks have been made prior to an operation starting. This isn't to add restrictions. I think it's quite nice to have music in a gym. However, you do have to accept that even though the environmental team doesn't make a representation, our residents speak to us and our fellow councillors might do, and residents might write to us direct. And so there may be representations made to us directly that are not in this pack. And we're trying to ensure here the success of the operation of the Olympia site rather to impede it again. So it's an opportunity for all of us to make sure that this works for everyone, including, making sure that people can work out and be healthy in the borough. So thank you very much. And I don't have any further questions, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions from members? I just have one question. Do you have any exactly the number of people that will be attending the gym? I know it's possible to say. And how many people can the gym take in one time?
Yeah, if all 3 studios were operating at the same time, perhaps 100.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. I don't have further questions. Any more questions from any members? No. Okay, now we go to sum up. Can I ask the licensing officer, Lona, to sum up?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And the objectors, no objector has confirmed the attendance. So can we have an applicant to sum up? And that's Matthew, that's 3 minutes to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. In the context of the application, it's a very comprehensive operating schedule, and candidly, you don't need to take my word for that. The lack of officer engagement and concern being articulated, overlaid with the planning permission, I'd respectfully suggest allows for the application to be granted. I should add the points raised by Councillor just in terms of engagement, and to be fair, I think there's probably slightly retrospectively as a comment one can make about all the applications here. And it is touched on in the submissions, is that there is at no point a suggestion that there's a blank check being written here. And I'm not for a moment suggesting that's what the councillor was suggesting, but we fully understand that the engagement with officers, the engagement with all of the local authority teams, and candidly the engagement directly with residents, which is set out in the residential engagement report, that continues now and will be continuing forever, is a fully understood part of this. This only works with transparent engagement going forward, and obviously that would extend to ward councillors as well. So whilst it's perhaps difficult to articulate as a condition, I don't want my comments to be seen to be less than cooperative or collaborative. The point's fairly made.
Thank you very much, Matthew. Instead of us going into deliberation, I think we're going to go into the second application, which is a request of music arena. And as I said before, when we come out, after this, we're going to have 2 separate notes on our decisions. So just to take that into consideration, that's how it's going to be. So
yeah,
can we go in?
I think the deliberations were due to take place after each item. Emmanuel?
Well, I understand. We the committee, we took the decision that
that's fine. Yeah,
we have to do the 2 deliberation, both deliberation at once. So we come out
that's fine.
separate. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. And so we go into the second application, which is the music arena. Can I ask the presenting officer, can you please, licensing officer, introduce the application?
Yeah, of course. So on the 26th of February 2024, TLT solicitors submitted an application on behalf of Olympus Property Holdings Limited, the applicant, for a provisional statement for the area of the development known as the Music Arena, Olympia Exhibition Centre, Hammersmith Road, London, W148UX. The applicant proposes to operate the premises as a music and performance venue, which will be situated on level 2 and 3 of the Olympia complex. The applicant has applied for the following licensable activities: the performance of plays indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. till 10:45 p.m. The exhibition of films indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. till 10:45 p.m. Indoor sporting events, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. till 10:45 p.m. Boxing and wrestling, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. till 10:45 p.m. The performance of live music, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. The playing of recorded music, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. The performance of dances, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. and entertainment similar to music and dance, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. The applicant has also applied for the sale of alcohol both on and off the premises, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 10 a.m. to 10:45 p.m. Late night refreshment indoors only will be for the non-standard timings only, and the proposed opening hours for the premises is Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. The non-standard timings applied for are to extend the provision of licensable activities on New Year's Eve to 2 a.m. on New Year's Day, with the premises closing 30 minutes thereafter, and to include the provision of late night refreshment on New Year's Eve to 2 a.m. on New Year's Day. The applicant has proposed a number of additional steps within the operating schedule to promote the 4 licensing objectives if the license is to be granted today. During the consultation period, the licensing section received 1 representation from the noise and nuisance team objecting to the application being granted for the music arena, and 12 representations were also received from local residents. On the 23rd of May 2024, following the agreement to add 3 further conditions to the licence should it be granted, the noise and nuisance team withdrew their representation. And in addition to the main agenda, I can confirm that a supplementary agenda A, B and C, which contained additional information, was published on the 23rd and 28th of May 2024 and has been circulated to all parties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Now, no objector has confirmed the attendance, so we go straight into applicant. Can I ask Matthew the solicitor, if your concerns mentioned in the previous application are also relevant to the application, can you summarize any additional comments you want to raise on this application? You have 5 minutes. That's to Matthew.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, to pick up the summarising point, you will see and have already heard from me this morning the point about the significant volume of papers and the significant considerations that have gone toward this and the other applications. And I'll not repeat the various points that I made earlier in terms of the documents and look to focus my comments on this application specifically. The application for the music arena has a bespoke submission that is on page 60 of the supplementary agenda. And that touches on both the hours, the activities, the conditions, and provides a little bit of introduction to who we anticipate partnering with here. And you will see on page 61 that is proposed to be AEG, the national and international live music venue operator, amongst other venues. There is some supporting materials that have been produced, and the first of which is a attendee and public safety policy by way of a sort of introduction to the sort of policies that you might expect for an application and operation of this sort. And that is because the application conditions are not formulated, if you will, with just the granular detailed conditions with which you will be familiar, but we have incorporated an event safety management plan, which sets out all of the policies and procedures that you would expect to form effectively an operations manual. That's set out on page 66 of the agenda, but includes noise management, security management, access, egress, dispersal, capacity, alcohol, risk assessment, special effects, drugs, medical, child welfare, drink spiking, and so forth. And then you will see that that is essentially overlaid, for want of a better phrase, by the materials that follow the presentation introducing the business, and the index to a draft operations manual is on page 99 of the supplementary agenda. I will not try and take you through its various component parts, but you will see that it is fair to suggest that it is a comprehensive working draft for the sort of issues that you would hope to be attended to in an operation of this sort. AEG will be known to members as they operate the Hammersmith Apollo, and we say to good effect. A couple of additional points, if I may. The first point is that in the context of alcohol, that can fairly be said to be ancillary to the primary purpose for attendance, which will be to attend an entertainment event. Traditionally and historically, that would have meant a music event, but increasingly more and more that also means comedy, and you will be aware of the significance of comedy within the arena entertainment area. The issue of music escape will be a feature, no doubt, of our discussions. I've made the comments about planning in respect of the gym, which attend equally to this venue. There is a report of Robert Adnett contained within the papers. Environmental Health have withdrawn their representation, and the reasons for the withdrawal of their representations, I think supplementary B, are set out. I don't think it's an improper summary to say that the way in which the premises has been constructed will control the escape of noise satisfactorily. Forgive me for this, Councillor Stanton, but I perhaps anticipated a question about off sales, and a little like yesterday's slightly embarrassing observation from me, you will be receiving the same answer, that it would appear that we were a little ambitious in our application, and there is no requirement for off sales for a music venue. Indeed, alcohol will not be leaving the premises full stop. I just make that point, perhaps I hope in anticipation of the point you might have raised with me. One thing that you will all have noticed is that the licensable activities are listed for 10:45, but that the premises closes at 11. And on most applications before you, and your policy touches on this, a 30-minute wind down period is what is generally requested and expected. Candidly, the request for 10:45 is not to change the nature of and the substance of when activities will likely cease, but it is to ensure that we do not inadvertently criminalise the applicant or the operator of the unit were someone to be performing an additional song such that the power would need to be pulled. So it's a little bit of a, if you will, cautionary element, more than an appetite to presume to continue activities to that time. And then the final point, and perhaps for questions, will be, I am sure, just about the issue of dispersal. And you will be aware that there is a transport plan. We have talked in significant detail about transport and the facilities that are available within London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham, touched on in your policy, the transport management plan, and those that will be familiar to you. But the point of significance here is that, of course, these premises are going to be situated, if permitted to trade, in a mixed use scheme of significance. They are not an isolated premises. And so the departure is effectively, or the dispersal is diverse. Some will leave immediately, some of those on foot, some of those on the tube, some of those on bus, but some will not. Some will go into the scheme to take a drink perhaps, or to take a bite to eat. There are diverse routes of dispersal. There are diverse hours of closure. This, I think I'm right in saying, is the earliest closing of all of the units that have come before you in recent weeks. The frequency of operation, unlike perhaps other units, this is not a premises that will be trading 365 days a year, as you would be aware, and there will be periods where, much like a theatre, the premises will be dark, but one would perhaps expect 2 or 3 days a week if one were to look at the whole year. That, I hope, is both within time and raises the issues that may be the subject of your questions. But that's probably, Chair, all I propose to say at this stage.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Can I ask members now to ask questions? Members?
I have some questions, Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. And thank you again for Mr. Phipps for ticking off some of my answers before I asked the question. I have a couple of questions, and I'll be honest, most of them do regard dispersal. I think we have to assume that from the paperwork that sound egress from the facility won't be an issue. I am, however, concerned about the volume in particular of taxis and Ubers leaving the premises at what might be quite a concentrated time slot. Can I ask one first question, which is, I've seen that there's a standing capacity, I think, in the paperwork of 4,000 for this venue.
So yes.
Sorry, I was going to say, what is the total capacity for the venue?
Oh, forgive me. That's it. If the premises were
4,400.
4,400. Forgive me.
Yeah. So 4,400 would include staff behind the bar, operating, etc. The AEG business model would work on 4,000 ticket sales because they do fairly complex maths around space per person.
So 4,000 is the number I was looking for. That's fine. So on my back of the fag packet calculations, that could mean up to 320 taxis.
So now that, if I may say so, presupposes that every taxi would be taken by one individual.
It does indeed. It does indeed. But they may be.
Yes, they may, but I suggest that would be somewhat unlikely.
No, I mean, yes, I agree, but equally, the percentage of people arriving by taxi may be greater than 8%. So, you know, we're looking at the extremes here. I think the lowest number I calculated will be around 80, and the upper level will be around 320. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can't deny your calculation, but I don't think that we would, or I don't think I'm in any position to agree that all taxis would be single occupier taxis at the upper level.
No, that is fair enough. Thankfully, I wasn't asking for agreement. I was making a statement. So, so we could realistically be talking in the upper, 1 to 200s of taxis arriving and departing within a very short period of time. You may, by the way, wish to amend the plan that you provided, which says that the taxi drop-off points are at the north and south side of Hammersmith Road. It's actually Olympia Way, if I read the plans correctly. But in any event, that could mean up to, shall we say, 70 to 80 taxis arriving and departing at each of the taxi drop-off points within a very short period of time. And I was just wondering how you think that might be managed.
Yeah, can I just, sorry, Dom, you go ahead.
Yeah. So there are, yes, there is a potential for drop-off along Olympia Way for VIP intensive events, but we would restrict that as far as we could because we obviously anticipate there'll be far greater pedestrian movements along Olympia Way, and so we want to segregate that. Yes, there are drop-offs at the north and south end of Olympia Way, but there are then on Hammersmith Road 2 more taxi ranks that are publicly accessible, which are the ones that are referred to in the, if you're looking at the residential engagement pack.
Yes, I was. Yes. So they're actually. So you're saying there are 4 drop-off and pick-up points.
Yeah. So two official on Hammersmith Road and 2 within our control.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My question still stands though. That is a significant volume of stationary traffic which may end up queuing. I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, Hammersmith Road does have the capacity for slow traffic at times, especially if there are events on at Olympia. Equally, if a performance coincided with, say, a theatre performance, albeit I appreciate that the times of the start and the finish will be staggered, they will be similar. So you could have the situation where you have up to 80 to 100 vehicles trying to drop off and pick up at roughly the same time. So I was just wondering what facilities you have to cope with that, because that's a large number of vehicles.
It is. There are options available to us if it became a problem in operation. I mean, generally we know that Hammersmith Road does flow fairly well at that time of the evening. The drop-offs we do anticipate to be more dispersed because of people's arrival times and profiles, and but yes, if everyone did exit and that report did want to get a taxi, there'll be a significant number along Hammersmith Road and around this site. We could, in extreme situations where we know there are high volumes, as it says in that pack, open up more logistics space, either within the building or along Olympia Way. We would prefer not to, because the logistics area is a common area for supplies, deliveries. The AEG bands, support crews will be in there, and there's also rubbish collection and other things that we would want to separate people from. But there is the possibility that we could use more likely the basement area, which is the more publicly available or accessible space, assuming there isn't an exhibition event on. It's unlikely there'll be an exhibition event on late at night to the same scale as all the halls. There might be a conference event on which would have a lower driving or car intensive use. So we do have mitigation options if it becomes clear that this is becoming a problem on the roads.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, because for example, with Horse of the Year, which does tend to finish slightly later than an exhibition, and I would imagine around Christmas you're likely to have theatre performances and music performances, that could become quite the issue.
Yeah, that is, and I think the Horse, I think we have two night. How many late nights do we have? Or is it most nights?
The show jumping will be 6 nights.
6 nights and late.
But we haven't done it for years. The show has like this to East London, so we haven't done it for.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you.
Show jumping. Sorry, I'm shouting. Show jumping is actually no longer at Olympia as things stand. It's gone to the XL Exhibition Centre in East London. I mean, the point's the point, but as it happens, the show jumping is off the diary. calendar.
But we do hope to get it back.
Yes.
And I think it's worth remembering that this venue is unlikely to be operating more than 3, worst case 4 days a week, generally at the weekends. Now, doesn't mean there's less congestion and less disruption, but it does ease perhaps some concerns around traffic, assuming weekday peak hour volumes, which does help a little bit. And therefore, in the event of a clash with show jumping, the International Horse Show, it would only clash on, let's say, 3 of the 6 days. But as we were discussing yesterday in some other applications, and to remind this committee, we will be managing a site-wide schedule to deconflict such clashes of a big event in the halls plus a concert. Also bear in mind there may be a theatre event as well. So we are conscious of that, and that will be one of our pieces of work that Abe and Andrew will do, and Jill will do on a sort of monthly basis, if not more frequently between them, to deconflict bookings and calendars. So hopefully we've reassured you a little bit. We do have options to mitigate the volume of cars if it does turn out to be worst case, as you've cited. But we do think that with our, where necessary, marshals on the road to move people along swiftly, queues, orderly queues, and we can manage it fairly well.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it does. You mentioned that the performances are unlikely to be 7 days a week, and that they are likely to be focused around the weekend. Can I ask in particular on a Sunday, if it is anticipated that your operating schedule will make adjustments for the fact that it is a Sunday, by which I mean finishing earlier?
I know anecdotally that it's unlikely that shows are less likely to happen on Sundays unless it's a bank holiday weekend, and that would mean more potential Sunday events in this arena. But generally they are less prevalent because of the fact that it's a Sunday and people tend not to want to go to concerts on Sundays. It may be that there's a comedy event more likely on a Sunday that might be more appropriate. That would have a lower capacity because they would introduce seating for that, and it would be more like 1,500 capacity event, perhaps with a slightly less excited crowd. But that would also be a fairly swift exit on Sunday, I imagine, as well.
So yeah, just to pick up on that, if I may, that was the point about standing capacity. Is obviously self-evidently seating capacity is significantly less than standing.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I had I know one should never assume, but I had. Thank you. I think for now, Chair, that's me. I may come back. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Committee member, anybody have more questions?
Yeah, I can come in, Chair, if you like.
Okay, please.
Yeah, and thank you to Council for these questions. There were a lot of. I wanted to continue on the topic of crowd dispersal. So, in the acoustic report, which is in one of the supplementary agenda, there's a sort of an assessment that the risk of noise disturbance from customer vocal noise from well-managed premises is very low in this instance, but with up to 4,000 people leaving the premises and potentially waiting for cabs or anything else anyway. I was just interested in knowing if you could tell us more about your strategy to manage such large numbers of people exiting the venue, to make sure that they don't congregate or make noise, and kind of direct it towards the bus stops or tube stations.
So yes, thank you. It may be helpful if Andrew were just to talk from an overarching management of the scheme perspective first.
Yeah, in the evenings, the scheme is going to be fully manned. We are going to have stewards and marshals around to guide people around the scheme. You know, it's a security guarded scheme, and we will be encouraging quiet dispersal towards the various transport locations. We're also putting in quite extensive signage, some of which is dynamic, so digital, that will guide people in the appropriate directions for transport and so on. So it's a combination of technology and people aimed at encouraging dispersal, obviously combined with efforts to encourage people to stop and have a drink on the way out or so on, which will all help to stagger the departure process, because the key thing here is to stagger things as much as we can.
So I think the other point perhaps, and Andrew may just develop it, forgive me for sort of prompting him to this rather than my giving you the answer, is just where people will depart from, which parts of the scheme, into which parts of the scheme they will depart.
So yeah, from the music venue, there are basically two routes out. So they come out of the front doors of the music arena, and they will either go down an escalator onto Hammersmith Road that is directly opposite the North End Road, providing a easy egress down North End Road, which fortunately is not a particularly residential street, towards West Ken. Or they will go down the other escalator via the roof garden onto Olympia Way, directed towards the Olympia station. So we've got diverse routing. Obviously, the people going towards in that direction may get tempted to have a drink or a bite to eat on the way through. But we were right at the point where they exit the front doors of the arena, they split. So we're starting to divide the crowd from that point.
Yeah, that's very, very, very interesting. I hadn't figured out that actually. Now looking at the plan again on page 73 of the first report, and yes, there are exits onto what you said, etc. So yeah, interesting. So but entrance onto the side, people will only be queuing on the Blythe Road side, won't they? They can't come onto the venue from the others, or can they?
Yes, they can. They can arrive from both sides, and we will have no queuing on Blythe Road. The queuing is within the scheme. That covered walkway at level 2 is what we will use for queuing. And if we need, there's enough queuing capacity there, combined with extra space on Olympia Way, if it was ever required, to queue both the theatre and the music venue. Now, we don't anticipate queuing for the theatre because it's ticketed, and you don't have theatre queues, because if people have got a named seat, a numbered seat, they don't typically queue for it. So queuing will be contained within our scheme, which I think is a key point here.
So if I might just invite your attention when you come to retire, that's page 37 of the supplementary agenda, is just a...
Which supplementary agenda, sorry?
Supplementary agenda A, page 37, which is the public realm report, which obviously covers a number of topics, but there's a little bit about event queuing just within page 37, second paragraph.
I would also draw your attention, the sort of the graphic we have on page 97 of supplementary pack A, no, 98. It's quite a helpful plan that looks at dispersal. It also makes it very clear that there is no exit or entrance onto Blythe Road for this venue. There is for the exhibitions, which are below, but not for the music or the theatre. It's just a fire escape in the event of an emergency. So that helps sort of visualise both the scale of the space available and the direction of travel for people egressing.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Just to correlate exiting, and I suspect that you'll direct people onto the Olympia tube station to and from which many people can travel to the Olympia site. Some of the closing times, however, on a Sunday are quite close to on supplementary agenda, which is it, this last one, C, at page 8, you've given us some of the times that the trains finish in the evening. On the Sunday particularly, that's really close to closing time. That's asked for a Sunday, so we've got trains finishing at 11:45, and you're asking us on a Sunday for... You're asking us, Music Arena, for 11.
Till 11, I think, so premises be closed by 11.
So it's about half an hour to get there, so it's fair enough. In terms of I'm going to ask you about the number of staff, both outside and inside the venue. So you've talked about marshals. How many marshals will you have?
Right, the marshalling will be a combined team between us and AEG. So they will be marshalling their queues and their access and egress within the scheme. We will marshal the wider scheme, if you see what I mean, in combination. The exact numbers we have not yet set. It will be a dynamic number, dependent on the number of events going on a given evening, the demographic, and so on. It'll be a risk-based approach. We will adequately marshal it. It's in our interest to adequately marshal it. To give you a precise number on a fixed basis is the wrong thing to do. We're going to have to learn how many we need. We're going to have to work out the best places to put them. And it will vary dependent on the combination of events. And that's why this event management calendar that we've been talking about is so important, because that will enable us to plan the appropriate level of resourcing. There will always be a baseline. At 365 days a year, we will have night patrols, we will have people on site. So there's always a base level, but the level above that is going to vary dependent on what's happening.
Now, if we illustrate that point through the existing exhibition venue, for something like an antiques fair, we might have no marshals.
Absolutely, very few on the outside of the building, but anything which is a large queue, anything with film and comic, for example, you'll see we regularly have thousands of people come into a film and comic, and we will have people dotted at every 10, 15 metres, just to ensure that they are picking up and appropriate behaviour, keeping pathways clear, making sure people can get out of their own doorways, that shops are busy. We also put out cleaners on big shows. So we do perimeter area and sweeps on those larger shows to ensure that there's no impact on the community, and that is a relatively new thing that we have introduced in the past 12 months. And we also have security who just patrol alongside CCTV and everything else that happens, and traffic marshals who we have out on various corners of streets.
That's really helpful, thank you. I think we all want Rihanna to come back, minus the chaos last time. In terms of the perimeter, am I right to understand this is really the entirety of the Olympia Exhibition Centre, including the theatre, west, southeast corner where the Pizza Express will be, and north where the gym and the Brit School will be? This is
absolutely, yes. Yeah, no, we have. I think in the plan we show the extent of the estate and the. I'm trying to find the diagram. Yes, there's on page 3 of the public realm plan. There is a diagram that shows the area that we are patrolling.
So forgive me, that's page 34 of supplementary agenda A, just for precision.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, yes, because yeah. Yep. Okay, great. And I don't have any further question. I did want to give you this for your partners at AEG. AEG will be interested in knowing we gave the Freedom of the Borough to the Disabled People's Commission last week, and these people have made great contributions to our focus on accessibility and inclusivity. And however helpful, and thank you for including it, the AEG brochure is, it would fail multiple web accessibility guidance checks. So just to take away, please don't apologise, make it a big deal, but do feedback to AEG next time they come around to manage a site in our borough, if they can make their documentation fully accessible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I just have one, and is about queuing. And when we have when this event is massive, and people tends to be eating something or want to leave it. So how do you gather the liters of whatever people must have dropped during the queuing? So how are you going to handle that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So that actually takes us back to the public realm document, which is page 32 of Supplementary Agenda A. And although that covers a wide variety of issues, on page 38, you'll see maintenance, cleaning, waste management, collection and landscaping. It only introduces the point, but the overarching point here is that we as Olympia are taking responsibility for the scheme, as I tend to refer to it, in the context of its maintenance, upkeep and good management. That does not avoid the individual operators having to take responsibility for their individual units, but we effectively overlay with them. And so you will see, and it's touched on in terms of security and so forth, but there will be, as per the cleaning section on page 38, there will be effectively full-time cleaning, maintenance and patrols of the scheme as a whole by us. And so we are effectively continuing it throughout, and candidly that is whether there is a particular event on or whether that's just in the usual course of normal business.
Okay, thank you, Matthew. Do we have any more questions? Committee members? No. Okay. No. Okay, we go and sum up. Do parties have? Can I ask Lorna to sum up, the licensing officer?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you. Objectors? No objector has confirmed the attendance. Then can I ask Matthew to sum up in 3 minutes? And
thank you, Chair. You perhaps will be relieved to know I'm not planning on taking you back through all the papers, but we have sort of touched on some of them. What I propose to do, if I might, is just focus on a couple of key points. The first point is the scheme and the overarching management is a point of particular significance here, because whilst taking our responsibilities for the scheme as a whole are important in the context of all the applications, perhaps it would be fair to say none more so than here. And within the materials and within what you've heard, I hope that you can see that the responsibility is both accepted and being attended to. Probably fair to say that there are prospective challenges here, and it would be wrong not to recognise that. What I would say to you about that is that the recognition that there is a challenge and that we will need to put our shoulder to the wheel in order to ensure with AEG that these premises operate sympathetically with residents and indeed the other operations and indeed the offices, it is to the good. There is no abdication of responsibility here. There is no lack of understanding that there is work to be done. But I hope that it's a reasonable submission that all of the materials that you have in front of you disclose that there is a comprehensive understanding of what will need to be done, a recognition and acceptance of it, and a commitment to deliver. The third element is, of course, none of this is to be considered in isolation. There is both the overarching success of the scheme, and without going back through it line by line, there is, if you will, the planning controls and measures that feature and all of the experience and expertise that Olympia have brought to the exhibition business over the years, which Gillian developed a little in answer to one of the questions, will be brought to bear here, as well as the new public realm team. So that perhaps just on a granular level just brings us back to the first point, just as regards the taxing element. Yes, that's going to need to be managed. I perhaps, without in any way falling out with anybody, I perhaps don't accept quite the risk of the volume of taxis in the concertina timeframe. But if we work to that, then if we're working to a worst case scenario, we can only really exceed and deliver to the requirements, because we have always fully understood that this premises has to operate sympathetically with its environment. And I hope that there's nothing that you've heard or seen that would possibly suggest otherwise. So in those circumstances, that then perhaps just brings us back to the other query, just about the issue of hours. The hours here are not late. Appreciate there was some concern about the last train times and so forth on Sundays, but I would suggest that both the practical observation that the Sundays are likely to be less frequent days, the observation that not all events will be musical and therefore standing, and that based on the figures in front of you within the transport plan, there's 45 minutes for people to depart on a worst case scenario if they were only leaving at 11, and with the last train at 11:45, there's ample opportunity for people to fairly and properly leave here without Sunday being unreasonably disturbed. So on that basis, we invite you to grant the application.
Thank you. Okay. Deliberation. The committee will now retire to take its decision for these two applications in a separate meeting rooms. You are welcome to remain in the meeting to hear committee's decision. If you do not want to wait, a summary decision will be published on council's website tomorrow morning. Can I ask the members to turn off their video, mute their microphones, and join me in the next room?
Hi, Chair, ready to start when you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, ready to start. Okay. Gym, Grand and Basement, Olympia Exhibition Centre, Hammersmith Road, London, W14, 8UX, to premises. The committee has considered an application for a provisional statement for the following licensable activity under the Licensing Act 2003. The application, the exhibition of films, indoors only. The playing of recorded music, indoors only. The provision of late night refreshments, indoors only. The sale of alcohol on the premises only. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all of the individual circumstances of the case and the promotion of 4 licensing at objective to 1, grant the proposed hours of the premises is open to the public as follows: Mondays to Sundays between 05:45 to 00:30, which is 12:30. 2, grant the proposed hours of the provision of licensable activities as follows: the exhibition of films, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 05 to 45 to 00:30. The playing of recorded music, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between the hours of 05:45 to 00:30. Provision of late night refreshment, indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 23 hours to 003 hours. The sale of alcohol on the premises only, Mondays to Sundays between 11:00 hours to 23:030 hours. 3, attached proposed conditions by the applicant. The licensable activities grants as referred above will come into effect when an application for a premises license will be submitted and approved by the council. The premises construction shall be completed in a manner which substantially complies with the schedule of the work referred to on the application and accompanying plans. A copy of this committee's full decision, including setting out details of the decision together with reasons, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If applicant or any person who has made a relevant representation is unhappy with the terms of the provisional statement issued, they are entitled to appeal to the magistrate court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision. Thank you. And now we go to the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham summary of the licensing subcommittee for 29th of May, the Music Arena, Olympia Exhibition Centre, Hammersmith Road, London, W14, 8UX, the premises. The committee has considered an application for the provisional statement of the following licensable activities under the Licensing Act 2003. The application, the performance of plays, indoors only, the exhibition of films, indoors only, indoor sporting events, boxing and wrestling, indoors only, the performance of live music, indoors only, the playing of recorded music, indoors only, the performance of dance, indoors only, entertainment similar to music or dance, indoors only, late night refreshments, indoors only, the sale of alcohol on the premises only. In summary, the committee has decided, after taking into account all the individual circumstances of this case and promotion of 4 licensing objectives, to grant the proposed hours of the premises is open to the public as follows: Mondays to Sundays between 0800 hours to 2300 hours. 5, grant the proposed hours for the provision of licensable activities as follows: the performance of play indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 hours to 22:45 hours. The exhibition of films indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 hours to 22:45 hours. Indoor sporting events, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 hours to 22:45 hours. Boxing and wrestling indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 to 22:45 hours. The performance of live music indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 to 22:45 hours. The playing of recorded music indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 to 22:45 hours. The performance of dance indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 to 22:45 hours. The entertainment similar to music or dance indoors only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 hours to 22:45 hours. Late night refreshments indoors only, non-standard timing only. The sale of alcohol on the premises only, Mondays to Sundays between 10:00 hours to 22:45 hours. Non-standing timing to extend the provision of licensable activities to New Year's Eve to 02:00 hours on New Year's Eve day, with premises closing 30 minutes thereafter, and to include the provision of late night refreshment on New Year's Eve to 02:00 to 00 hours New Year's Day. 6, attach a proposed condition by the applicant. 7, amend the proposed condition of the applicant relating to noise nuisance as follows: the access, egress, and dispersal plan shall be submitted to the licensing authority for review not less than 14 days before the premises opens. Any comments, observations, advice, and suggestions made by the licensable activity authority shall be considered and appropriate adopted by the license before being opening and following any ongoing engagement. Any amendment made by the access, egress, and dispersal plan shall be made known to the licensing authority. The licensable activities granted as referred above will come into effect when an application for premises license will be submitted and approved by the council. The premises construction shall be completed in a manner which substantially complies with the schedule of the works referred to in the application and accompanying plans. A copy of this committee's full decision, including setting out details of decision together with its reasons, will be sent to the parties forthwith. If applicant or any other person has made a relevant representation is unhappy with the terms of the provisional statement issued, they are entitled to appeal to magistrate court within 21 days from the date of notification of the full decision of the licensing subcommittee, 29th May 2024 for their, and thank you all for attending or viewing. Thank you.
May I just add two quick comments, if I may? Not
Okay.
Not about the decision. The first, please, is just in respect of the written notice of determinations. It would be extremely helpful if we could receive those, because as you will appreciate, there is a lot of work awaiting confirmation of the written notice of determination. So hopefully just helpful for Emmanuel just to hear that, if I may say it, Emmanuel, if we could receive, for example, the hotel decisions, that would be massively helpful to help take those forward with in terms of building and contractual terms with the operators and so forth. And the second, perhaps more important point, on behalf of myself particularly, but all of my clients and all of the attendees, is to say thank you, both to the committee and all of the members of the committee that have sat on what have been extensive and significant applications. And I see Councillor Stanton smiling. I think he's actually sat on every single one, and you have both my sympathy and gratitude at the same time for that. But obviously we'd like to thank Democratic Services and your legal team, but it's particularly important that I say in front of the committee that the support and assistance we received from your licensing team, both Mr. Overton, who we were speaking to first on this in November, and particularly Lorna, who has been nothing but candidly heroic in terms of the production of the documents, the materials, corralling us, re-attendance, agendas, links to dial in and so forth. None of us here misunderstand the significance of the work. And as with licensing, so much of licensing is about tone as much as content. And no one has been anything other than charming and very easy to work with and for, and we are very grateful indeed, and it needs saying.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you very much. We do appreciate all that was said.
Emmanuel,
do you have anything to? Yes?
No, I need to say thank you. That was all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.